The nightmare grows.
In one final showdown that will...
Do you believe in evil spirits?
This is Jamie Douglas at the Baldwin Hills Cemetery, where this morning the body of another young woman was found by two caretakers. At this point in the police investigation, homicide detectives are speculating that this is yet another in a series of the so-called sweetheart murders. As in the first 6 cases, the victim was found in a
terrific stuff, Jamie. Ought to have them squirming in their seats.
In addition, a red
How can you say that? I think it's horrible.
calling card of the sweetheart killer was found.
But it's great for the ratings.
Just tell her Derek called.
Oh, God, Mrs. Caluso, you scared me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jamie. It's just me and Butch looking for a place to poo-poo.
Oh.
Just tell her Derek called.
Strong don't mean jack shit when you're dealing with crazy.
Just tell her Derek called.
Flowers from Brandon?
Nope. They're from Derek.
I don't know any Derek.
Just tell her Derek called.
There's no way you can stop these kind of people. They're crawling all over the goddamn place. Even if I put Loverboy in jail, the minute he got out, he'd start all over again.
Just tell her Derek called.
Take my advice, Jamie. Don't put up with this creep. Turn it around on him and you'll see. You have to do something.
Like what? What am I supposed to do? Take karate? Pack a gun? Become some kind of street thug?
Just tell her Derek called.
First in a series of special reports on the sweetheart killer case that has been plaguing Los Angeles for the past 3 months. Jamie, I'm watching you.
Just tell her Derek called.
Derek. He's watching me.
What's going on?
He watches me all the time.
Go to commercial.
The police won't help. Nobody will help.
And you're all mine.
Why are you doing this?
Because even if they locked you up, they'd only let you out again. Art! Bart!
Hi, this is Tony Odell from Chopping Mall, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. This is episode 176 of The Hysteria Continues, and this time we're going back to 1982, Los Angeles, an anchor woman in peril. Morgan Fairchild is in the Seduction, and luckily, actually, just as we are doing the intro, my dishwasher stopped, which I thought it would have been quite apt if the dishwasher had been going on, given how many times Morgan Fairchild is in water or contact in water in the Seduction. But I know that we're all thrilled to be covering this, finally, this masterpiece of suspense. Erik, are you as excited as I am?
I'm so excited to talk about this briskly paced thriller-minute movie.
Okay. Well, what about you, Joseph?
Just tell her Derek called.
Okay.
What was his name again?
I think it was Derek.
Okay.
Nathan, how
Is he
about
related
you?
to Alan Dale by any chance?
Dear Nathan, how are you?
I'm very good.
Okay. Are you excited to be covering the Seduction?
Yeah. Well, I'll hold off on my thoughts till we talk about it, but yes, I am excited to discuss.
Okay. Well, that was a very pregnant pause, if ever I heard one.
I don't know what that means. I'm not pregnant.
It means that it's a kind of pregnant pause is one that is full of meaning, and it means that you're trying to think of what to say.
Oh, okay. Well, I do that a lot, so.
Okay. Right. Well, we will be coming on to the Seduction a little bit later. But before we do, let's talk in time-honoured tradition about what we've been watching recently. And it's been, a week or two, hasn't it? We recorded last weekend, but we've had a week to watch things. So, Erik, have you caught anything of interest this week?
No, I have seen nothing. I mean, we're recording this the same day as we're doing a Patreon episode, so it was those items were the only things I got a chance to watch this week. Sorry.
That's okay. It was going to be a brisk one. Joseph, how about you?
Nope, not a thing.
Okay. Well, Nathan, surely you've watched something else.
I watched New Year's Evil, but I've already seen it before.
And did it
was
improve?
Fun.
It's fun? Okay, well, that's one we need to cover at some point, isn't it?
Because, Erik talks about boiling your hair in that, and that's cool.
And New Year's Evil has a lot in common with The Seduction as well. Is that what prompted you to watch it?
No, I just saw it when I was browsing Amazon Prime, and I was just
I kind of wish we were covering that today instead.
New Year's Evil!
We've not covered it, have we? We've covered,
Evil.
given that we've covered at least 176 movies on this podcast, we are in danger of losing track. But we haven't covered New Year's Evil, have we?
Nope.
No.
Or Black Lace, apparently.
No. Well, that's one that should be coming up shortly at some point. Okay, well, anything else you'd like to say, Nathan, about New Year's Evil?
I think it's just awesome, and I think that we should definitely cover it.
Okay, right. Well, thank you. A few things I've watched. I finally saw the new Halloween in Spanish because there wasn't a version original playing anywhere near us. So we went to see it in Spanish, and actually I kind of understood quite a lot of it. And interestingly, well, it's not very interesting, but the point is that when you watch stuff in Spanish, when Spanish language films, they speak for it quite fast. Not all Spanish language films, but most of them very fast, quite difficult for me to follow. But American and English films, people speak a lot slower. So when they dub them into Spanish, it's actually easier to understand because they're speaking a lot slower. So Jamie Lee Curtis was abuela, was a grandmother, through lots of that throughout this. So I kind of got the gist of it because, as you said, it probably wasn't going to be too difficult to follow, and I enjoyed it for what it was. I can see both sides of the coin. I kind of reserve judgment a little bit until I see it in English when eventually I do manage to grab a Blu-ray copy of it, because I enjoyed it, but I do think there probably, there could have been a better Halloween movie out there. I don't know. It's good for what it was, but it didn't blow me away, put it that way. But great to see Jamie Lee Curtis back on the big screen as Laurie Strode, and I can't say that I enjoyed it while I was watching it, but it didn't really stay with me. Have you guys had any more thoughts about it after you've seen it? I know we discussed it a few episodes ago.
It's not earth shattering, but I did really enjoy it, and I can't wait to see it again. What's Michael Myers called in Spanish? Does he have a different name, or
Derek?
Derek Myers. No, I think he was Michael Myers. They kept some of the kind of language. Well, some of the names. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis was Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, I know we always talk about how Jason Voorhees was Jackie Voorhees in the French version of Friday the 13th, but I think it was the only thing that confused me was the big plot twist halfway through, because I couldn't get not exact nuance of exactly what the whole idea was. But then I found out after speaking to you, and I'm not going to give away what it was, that it didn't really make any sense anyway. So
no.
I thought there's some quite creepy bits in it. I like. I talked about. I think I mentioned the thing that I kind of thought they. Personally, I thought they kind of fluffed a bit. Was the bit the bit that I was most looking forward to was the kind of tracking shot of Michael Myers walking through the houses and going into different houses and killing people. I thought it was quite well done, but I thought whoever's playing Michael Myers at that point just seemed to be like somebody out on a Sunday stroll. It didn't have the Michael Myers moves down to at all. But later in the movie, there were certain sequences where I thought they did it really well. So it was a bit of a mixed bag. And given that they reshot loads of it and stuff, so it's I reserve judgment until I've seen the English language version. But talking of newish films, I finally caught. It's not a film I've been particularly looking forward to seeing, but I thought I should see at some point. Was The Nun, as part of the standalone film from the Conjuring universe. And have you guys seen it?
Not yet, no. But I hear it's a bit boring.
A bit boring. Well, I wouldn't say it's boring. It's just kind of you know Van Helsing, the one they released a few years ago. That kind of Michael Bay-esque sort of horror films where everything is just constantly going 100 miles an hour and nobody stops for a breath, and it's just relentless, and then ends up having no impact whatsoever, which kind of pretty much describes The Nun for me, really. I'm not a massive fan, but I certainly enjoyed all the Conjuring movies, and of the last kind of half decade or so, the Insidiouses and all those kind of films. They're entertaining enough, but for me it felt like where the franchise is going to jump the shark, because given that a faceless nun or a scary looking nun should be quite scary, And it does have a few kind of effective scenes in it, and I did like the way it tied itself together with the other films in the Conjuring universe quite cleverly. But it is just endless shock after shock after shock after set piece after set piece after everything that comes after one set piece completely destroys what's just gone before it. It's just relentless in such a way that it ends up having no impact or no resonance for me whatsoever. So. It was. It's a shame, really, because I thought it could have been quite an effective little film. But as it was, it's like a paint gun attack of a film, which it's no subtlety whatsoever, unfortunately. So, but that was that. I'm trying to think of those. I did see an absolute awful film last night called something from Willow Street, which had the woman from You're Next in it, Shani Vinson, which is a South African lensed shocker, which is bloody awful. So avoid that if you unfortunately get the chance to watch it. But I also revisited the Crazies remake from 2010 or 2011, I think. Which
I love
quite
that
enjoyed.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was interesting because one of the things I hadn't picked up on the first time I saw it, but actually the whole thing of the whole kind of crazy conspiracy theory that Obama's coming for your guns, all that kind of thing that was going on a few years ago, and saying that they were setting up containment camps, sort of Republican voters and all that kind of thing. Obviously, never came to anything. I think even had some kind of weird name, but actually the kind of Crazies, the way they did it in this film, it actually played out almost like a big conspiracy theory with all these people being shipped off and taken to containment camps and stuff. So it seems strangely prophetic on not of something that really happened, but of that whole weird conspiracy thing, which has obviously gone into massive overdrive at the moment. But as a piece of popcorn fodder, it was pretty well done as well. So, I know you are looking forward to this, and I bet you can't wait to hear what we think about The Seduction. Los Angeles anchorwoman Jamie Douglas has it all: a glamorous career on a top-rated news show, a luxurious house in the hills, and a devoted young admirer named Derek. But when Jamie rebuffs his romantic advances, Derek becomes an obsessed stalker who plays out an increasingly psychotic courtship with the frightened newswoman. Soon he's threatening every part of her life, secretly watching her ever most intimate moments. Her tough-talking lover can't help her. A by-the-book policeman can't protect her. Now Jamie is alone, trapped like an animal, and fighting back with the only weapon she has left. Will she finally be forced to use her luscious body to fulfill the seduction? Well, that was the back of presumed the Anchor Bay release of the film. Perhaps a better way of putting it would be one review at the time called it a piece of cheap, sleazy trash with violence, nudity, and a pro-vigilante philosophy. Whether I agree with that, I don't know. I mean, The Seduction is a film that I chose to have on here because I hadn't seen it for a long time. And when I started watching it, I was thinking, shit, is this even a slasher movie? I know I reviewed it on Hysteria Lives, and I think it kind of satisfies enough eventually when it finally gets going as being a slasher movie. But I think The Seduction is not a good movie by any stretch. I wouldn't say I was a fan of this movie. I mean, there are things to enjoy in it. But it's not a great thriller. It's not a great slasher movie. It's not a great movie. But I think it's probably more interesting for kind of some of the background stories behind it, what it was saying, and its kind of place in that kind of whole thriller thing, and also looking forward to the 90s erotic thrillers, which I think there was one. I think it was, I can't remember, didn't write down the name, Morgan Fairchild and Andrew Stevens were in another one of those interminable, endless erotic thrillers from the 90s. So this kind of looks forward to that. I guess I was just disappointed, really, again rewatching this, because it was directed by David Schmoller, who did the fantastic Tourist Trap in the late 90s, and of course it did Puppet Master and Crawl Space, much more spirited movies than this. So talk about background. I don't think this is a happy experience for anyone involved. I think apparently the film, when it was made, went quite smoothly, but it was savaged by critics. And David Schmoeder called it his, not evil, but his kind of, unloved stepchild of his filmography. But I think the difficulty with it for me, and it'd be interesting if you guys agree with it, is that it had a lot of potential. It could have been much more interesting because you have these, you have Morgan Fairchild, who is not that, a lot of the movies she's okay. I think it's some bits that she becomes quite laughable and she finds it difficult to carry, and you can't blame it all on her because some of the script is pretty ludicrous. But given that it's a bloated 140-something minutes, it could have been much more effective in so much you've got this whole setup of these murders happening across Los Angeles, and as a news anchorwoman, she's reporting on them, but she's being harassed by Andrew Stevens, who is kind of this Ted Bundy-esque, good-looking sort of photographer who's obsessed with her, and it kind of hints that he's the is it the lovebird or the whatever it was, the murders that are going on, that he's the killer, although it never actually establishes this and never actually says whether or not he is the killer, so you never find out. But unlike another film that was released around the same time, which is very similar, was The Fan, when you had Michael Biehn stalking Lauren Bacall, which was much more spirited and again quite camp, but much more entertaining. Is you actually have it actually satisfies more kind of slasher movie. Ticks more boxes when you actually have Michael Bihn's character bumping off some of the entourage for Lauren Bacall. And it seemed bizarre, given the nature of this film and its bloated running time, that you had all these peripheral characters like Kevin Brophy from Hell Night and Colleen Camp, who went on to be in Deadly Games, who are just kind of like collateral, not even damage. They're just kind of, they're characters that appear for, just to talk to Morgan Fairchild and then sort of disappear. They don't really have anything else to do, certainly with the end of the film. And it all kind of, it's like, I kind of guess Seduction is kind of this idea that she turns the tables on her tormentor, but it's like I spit on your grave in lipstick. Really, it's very light and fluffy, and it's not a successful movie at all. But I'll be interested to hear what you guys think about it. I'm kind of guessing that they may not have that many fans here. So, Erik, what are your thoughts on The Seduction? Was this your first time?
It was. This is the first time I've seen the movie. And the first thing that struck me was I was very surprised by the high production values, because just because it's got such negative reviews everywhere I've looked, I had just assumed it might have been rough around the edges, low budget, dare I say, Nathan-type movie. So I was very surprised when it was this widescreen, glossy, Hollywood-looking epic. And it had very much the same feel and vein, as you said, of The Fan, but also I was getting hints of Visiting Hours and New Year's Evil, which we were discussing a minute ago, when Someone's Watching Me. It's that kind of subgenre of slasher, as you said, it's kind of borderline slasher, is it really? Where the victim, often a TV personality, as it turns out, is aware that someone is after them quite early on in the film. So you don't get that. I don't get that sort of thrill ride I get normally from a slasher movie like Friday the 13th, where the final girl only becomes aware there's a killer in the final 15-20 minutes. So I'm not really into these ones where the killer is a normal bloke who walks and talks and has a personality. As I keep going on about, I prefer them hidden behind a mask and to be mysterious and that type of thing. The film is just way too long. I mean, it doesn't have enough plot to sustain 104 minutes. It's really threadbare. And it's very dependent on using the same plot device over and over again, which is Derek appearing in what's more, Jamie's wardrobe, or in her makeup room in her workplace, or in her sauna, wherever in the shopping mall she goes to. He just keeps showing up everywhere, and anytime she complains about it to the police say, no, we can't do anything, sorry. And even when it starts getting more and more serious, the police are like, well, he's not doing any harm. So it keeps relying on this, which I don't know if that was a believable plot device in 1982. Maybe it was. I mean, stalking wasn't taken as seriously back then, but it keeps relying on this plot point over and over again. And you were saying, possibly off air before we started recording, that Derek has this ability to be omnipresent, much like Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th Part 8. He just keeps cropping up everywhere, as if he's got sort of not telepathic, teleporting abilities. and there's a scene at the start where she seems okay with Derek appearing in from nowhere in her dressing room. She's like, "Oh, thank you for the chocolates. You're so nice." I'd be terribly suspicious even at that early stage if I was her. And then the scene where he breaks into her house with the camera and starts photographing her. You think she thinks she'd be a bit more hysterical, but her reaction is more like, "Oh, stop it, you silly man! Would you stop pushing me onto the couch and making me pose for your photographs?" So yeah, Morgan Fairchild I think is pretty decent in the movie. There's a couple of scenes where she's not, but I don't really have a problem with her in the film, and I don't have a problem with Andrew Stevens. I just think their characters are just incredibly bland. She's not a character I want to root for, and he's not, I don't know, villainous enough. I just find him a bit boring and drab. I would have preferred if he'd gone, turned into Rebecca Gayheart at the end of Urban Legend, for example, if he'd gone really over the top. But I don't think he ever gets to that stage. It would have been more entertaining. Just the film's just not cheesy enough. I mean, if it had been sillier, I think maybe the 104 minutes would have passed quicker. But as it is, I was just I was looking for games to play on my iPhone. I was anything else to do apart from watch the movie because it just wasn't holding my attention at all. I do like that scene where Morgan Fairchild meets the old woman, the neighbor, who's looking for a place for her dog to go poo-poo. Now, that just shows how childish I am, but that bit made me laugh. And I love, actually, there's a scene I love in it where Derek somehow walks into the newsroom and changes the teleprompter script for Morgan Fairchild's news bulletin. He somehow manages to get in, sneaks in the script, and Morgan Fairchild starts reading out, and you heard it there in the montage you played at the start. "Hi, Jamie, I'm watching you." It reminded me of the "I Still Know What You Did Last Summer" karaoke scene for silliness. Overall, The Seduction, it's a very well-made movie, because it looks really good, it looks really professional, but it's just drab. It's really, really boring. So I'm afraid it's a thumbs down for me in The Seduction. Sorry.
Well, I can't say I disagree with you, Erik. So I imagine that I'll save Nathan for last, only because that you might be the little ray of sunshine that you usually are, Nathan. But what about you, Joseph?
Well, like Erik said, this movie looks great. I mean, it's photographed so well, but man, this movie bored the shit out of me. It's an hour and 44 minutes long, and there's scenes where Morgan Fairchild's doing the news, and she says things like, "This is the 6th murder," and they don't even bother to show us these murders. I mean, this movie has like 1 or 2 deaths in it, and it's mainly just Morgan Fairchild, roaming around her house, and Andrew Stevens, occasionally showing up until they get to the, the final showdown. And I like the final showdown. I liked how, he's got her like kind of pinned to the bed, and so she decides to kind of flip the script and, make him think that she's gonna, be into him romantically, and that's how they just pretty much, ward him off. I like little scenes like that, and like Erik mentioned, the teleprompter scene I thought was hilarious. But God, this is a movie, other than those scenes, I don't really remember much about. I mean, I was so bored. I was just kind of, doing anything I could just to keep my attention from, waning towards wanting to go to sleep. This is definitely one of those, hey, I'm just going to get on my phone and just leave it on as background noise. Now, the copy I watched, I believe it was the DVD rip. I do like the AVCO embassy label that they plastered on the beginning of that. So there's a silver lining somewhere in The Seduction, but yeah, this is not a movie for me at all. I think, like I said, it looks great. It could have used about 3 or 4 more murders, shorten it down to about 80 minutes. It might have been good, but this isn't my type of movie, I'm afraid. Andrew Stevens, he's been great elsewhere. He's just wasted here. He's bland. Morgan Fairchild, I always thought she kind of, she did a lot of those kind of soft core Lifetime thrillers, and I always appreciated her in those, and I loved her on Friends as Chandler's mother. I think she's got good comic timing, but here she's just so boring and listless. I'm just like, okay, just either die or do something exciting, and you're not doing both, so let's just get to the end credits here. So yeah, thumbs down from me. I didn't care for The Seduction. It's not a bad movie. It's just totally not a memorable movie. So that's my 2 cents, as it were.
Okay, well, thank you, Joseph. What about you, Nathan?
I really like the Seduction.
Oh, Nathan.
Well, no. Hear me out. Because I totally understand where you guys are coming from. I do think that it's too long, so it definitely should have been trimmed up. And I also agree that I think the whole sweetheart killings was a wasted opportunity, because I thought it would have been great if this stalker and sweetheart killings kind of intersected. I think that could have made the movie better. But I love Morgan Fairchild. I've loved her ever since I saw her in Based on an Untrue Story, where she had anosmia. She lost her sense of smell, and she had to track down her long-lost sisters to get an olfactory nerve transplant so she could smell again. So,
what?
Really? What?
Really?
Is that a real? Have you been smoking something, Nathan?
No, it's a real movie. It's a spoof, but it's a real movie. It's a spoof of made-for-TV movies.
Okay. Well, that does sound good then.
It's actually really funny because she has to get an olfactory nerve transplant. But getting back to the Seduction, I liked her a lot in this movie. I loved the scene. And I actually thought the scene where she kind of has her breakdown on the air was actually really well done. I kept thinking, if this was in another movie, like, this would actually be a really, like, creepy moment where she's basically just feeling helpless even with all these people around. I thought that was a great, idea, and it would make you feel terrified. But the movie itself, I feel like, is a little more cheesy. It's not cheesy enough, like Erik said, but it's a little more cheesy. So that scene, I kind of felt a little out of place, even though I thought it was an amazing moment. But of course that happens right after that cheesy teleprompter scene that Erik had mentioned. Erik also mentioned something when we were chatting earlier that I absolutely loved, and it's the fact that after Andrew Stevens kills Morgan Fairchild's boyfriend in the hot tub, she just kind of hangs out in the hot tub a little bit afterwards.
Love that bit. Yeah.
I'm like, why didn't you get up and leave? You're just gonna hang out like, oh, okay, you just killed my boyfriend, whatever. I love the scene at the end because I think Justin's right. I think they were going for the whole she turns the table on her attacker kind of thing, because there's a scene where he's got her on the bed and she's struggling and he slaps her, and then she kind of gets this look on her face and she slaps him back and then punches him. So it's definitely more of like her fighting back kind of thing. But I think the problem that the movie had is something that one of you guys said earlier. It's that I don't feel that Morgan Fairchild's character was developed enough to make her fully sympathetic. And I don't feel that Andrew Stevens' character was scary enough to make him like a great villain. Like, I didn't find his character that frightening at all. Like, I was thinking, how would this movie have gone if, say, they hired like Joe Spinell from like his character from Maniac as the stalker of Morgan Fairchild's? Can you imagine the Seduction then?
Well, it's kind of it's strange, isn't it? Because he's quite sympathetic and handles the woman who's in love with him in quite a sympathetic, well, not quite sympathetic, but certainly level-headed way, doesn't he? To start off with, at least.
Yes, absolutely. And so I guess there's like kind of this sympathetic part of him, and even when he's being bad, I don't necessarily find him that scary. Like the stuff with him like taking her picture, the scenes where he kind of is attacking her with taking pictures of her and stuff. I just didn't find that suspenseful. I thought it was kind of funny. I mean, not that I think stalking is funny. I just thought the way they filmed it and everything, it was a little over the top. Whereas I think that if it kind of teeters the line on a serious movie and a cheesy movie. So I would probably give it a 6.5 out of 10.
That is very precise.
Yes, it is rather.
I don't think it's quite a 7, but I don't feel a 6 is fair. So
I'm going to give it a 3.721 out of 10.
Well, you like it less than me then.
I'd give Morgan Fairchild an 8, but I'd give the movie like a 2.
I'd give her 1.
I'd give her an 8.
I find that very difficult to believe, Erik, as with most of our listeners.
Justin, what do you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10? Remember your rating from the Hysteria review.
I would say probably a 3 or a 4 out of 10.
Oh, I guess I liked it the best then. I thought you might like it more than me since you picked it.
Well, I know, but I was watching it and thinking, it's such a long time ago since I reviewed it, and I just thought sometimes with films, I've reevaluated them after time. You know, I've come to appreciate maybe they're slightly campier values or whatever it was, but it's. And also, I thought, could The Seduction be as bad as I remember, given that it's directed by the man who gave us Tourist Trap and Puppet Master? And it was. I think everything we said.
I don't think it's bad. It's just dull.
Well, I know that. Well, that's what I mean. It's very well made. You know, it looks great. It sounds. I mean, we'll get into the background in a bit, but I think the idea, it'd be so easy to make it more of an interesting film, wouldn't it? Because all you would need to do is, people already said, is if you sprinkle some of the sweetheart murders or whatever they bloody things were called, I think it's sweetheart murders, in, and then he maybe bumps off or doesn't bump off because maybe her boyfriend, Michael Sarrazin, could have been the killer, couldn't it? And that would have been a better twist, that she kills Andrew Stevens, and then it turns out her boyfriend is actually a sweetheart murder killer.
That idea kind of reminds me of that one movie we covered with PJ Souls. What was it called? Innocent Prey?
Oh, yeah, Innocent Prey, yeah.
Yeah.
I like Innocent Prey.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of reminds me. I mean, it's very much of its time because there's a couple of other films that there was this whole anchor woman in peril. It's not even a subgenre. There's only one or two films. There's Eyes of a Stranger, wasn't it, of Lauren Toos, I think, from Love Boat. She was there was a very similar kind of idea of a movie, although that was much more was a slasher movie. But this, you mentioned Visiting Hours, where got Lee Grant being stalked by Michael Ironside, and you've got this idea of she was a news reporter, wasn't a TV reporter. But there was the TV movie Fantasies from this year as well. I think it was 82. Where you've got soap stars being bumped off one by one. And another film that reminded me of, and again from 1982, so it's very much playing into the theme, for whatever reason it was a hot theme at the time, was literally Hotline with Linda Carter, which was, ironically, was a TV movie, whereas obviously Morgan Fairchild was moving from TV because she was very... she was kind of hot star of Flamingo Road, I think, at that time, and this is her big movie break. So, whereas Linda Carter was doing not exactly this movie, but it's kind of similar ideas of someone being stalked in Hotline. So it's very much of its time. It's 1982 and 1981 because the whole stalking thing was, as I think you've mentioned, Erik, was just starting to be taken seriously, wasn't it, at that point? I think probably because of the murder, or very likely because of the murder of John Lennon. I kind of guess this all kind of came into the public sphere, the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. So it kind of is reflected in these movies. But the thing that I can't really understand why, again, you've got Owen Yablans, who obviously the man behind Halloween, and he'd worked with another the other producer whose name was Bruce Cohen Curtis, and they'd co-produced Hell Night the year before. Which again had Kevin Brophy in it, is kind of wasted role in this. So I remember Owen Yablans at the time thought that Hell Night would outperform Halloween. Of course, it failed. So when they made this movie, they were expecting a game, thinking when maybe the slasher movie was dead, and trying to make a more of a classy thriller. But the irony is that Seduction could have used a little bit of the pep of Hell Night or Halloween, couldn't it? And from what I read, is David Shimola, he wrote and directed this, but he said that the Owen Yablans and Bruce Cohen Curtis were constantly rowing and were rewriting the whole thing all the time. So it sounds like a case of too many chefs kind of spoil the broth a little bit with this movie, which is a shame. But anything else? Well, actually, just kind of one of the things. Did you spot? Did you spot the connection in this film with Friday the 13th Part 5?
I did indeed.
And what was it?
Bob DeSimone, who plays the guy doing the fashion photo shoot or whatever in that theater.
Yes.
Really, right. I didn't notice him.
He occurred There's Billy, of course, in Friday the 13th Part 5.
Yeah.
Mama!
Greatest character of all time.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought you might have clocked him because he's there with Colleen Camp, and she's up on that swing or that step ladder, and that's when she shouts out "art fart," which again is very bizarre. Well, there's the things I love about these movies from this time, and that whole thing about that woman going, "I'm taking my dog out to do a poo poo," searching for somewhere for him to have a shit. It's just kind of like, it's bizarre, isn't it, to throw those kind of little things in. And I think there was a few kind of little winks to the camera and a bit of fun. I like the scene where, Andrew Stevens is trying to get that child. Well, they're trying to get that child to smile, Ricky.
It's so funny, yeah.
And he's making this face; he just won't smile. It's kind of crazy. But okay, well. I think
on the subject, just on the subject of poo-poo, I just want to let you know that I was watching the football scores come in yesterday on the BBC, and there was a player who had the surname Doo-Doo, and I think I laughed for about an hour and a half.
Well, I think very much up your alley, as it were, Erik.
Yeah. Hi, I'm 44.
Right. Well, let's get on to some background, shall we? So, who would like to go first? Nathan, do you have anything on the Seduction for us?
No, but I did inform you about Morgan Fairchild in that movie based on an untrue story. So I did give you a little bit of trivia there.
You did.
About filmography.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your tireless journalistic efforts, as usual. Joseph, how about you?
I just got a couple of things. Apparently, veteran actress Bette Davis really liked the movie, and she sent Morgan Fairchild a letter complimenting her work on the film. And I think this was Morgan Fairchild's debut. I could be wrong about that.
I think it's her first feature film. I think she
first feature. I think director David Schmoller, he originally wanted Teresa Russell for the Morgan Fairchild role. Let's see, Peter Gallagher and Michael Keaton were considered for the role of Derek, which in the end obviously was cast with Andrew Stevens. The movie was actually nominated for 3 Golden Raspberry Awards, including Worst Supporting Actress for Colleen Camp, Worst Actress, and Worst New Star for Morgan Fairchild. But the picture failed to win a Razzie in any of these categories. Let's see, what else? I think that's all I pretty much have for the Seduction. Yep, that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you. And Erik, how about you?
Okay, well, just to mention that who they lost out to in the Golden Razzies in April of 1983, Worst Actress and Worst New Star both went to Pia Zadora for Butterfly, so she pipped Morgan Fairchild to the post, and the Worst Supporting Actress went to Aileen Quinn for Annie. I think she was Annie in Annie, so that was a kind of a mean thing to do to a child actress. But Colleen Camp was in the same category as Britannia Alda. We mentioned this, I think, on one of our Patreon episodes. Britannia Alda was nominated for Amityville 2 that same year. Dionne Warwick sings the theme song, which I couldn't believe, adding another touch of class to the Seduction. She sings the song Love's Hiding Place. This was the final Avco Embassy film. This, as Joseph was mentioning, it was great to see the Avco Embassy logo at the start, but after this they rebranded it as just Embassy on its own. There's an interview on the Terror Trap website from 1999, and you touched on this earlier, Justin, where David Schmoller says that The Seduction was an awful experience for me in every way. I'm personally embarrassed by the film, but it plays on TV and cable all the time, and he says that the residuals from The Seduction make it his most sort of financially successful movie from his perspective. Morgan Fairchild, of course, has gone on to be in another film we've covered in the past, Phantom of the Mall, My Revenge, Eric's Revenge. But I know her best, as Joseph said, as Chandler's saucy novelist mother in Friends, where she was really terrific in that role.
Nora Bing!
Mistress Bitch. There's a connection to Knight Rider in this movie as well, because the Hoff's younger sister has a cameo in the film. She is teleprompter girl. Her name is Jean Hasselhoff. She also went on to have bit parts in Knight Rider and Baywatch. So talk about nepotism. One of the other producers credited on the film is Chuck Russell, future director of Elm Street 3, The Blob, and Eraser. Music was by Lalo Schifrin, who needs no introduction. Of course, he did the iconic music for the Amityville Horror and Mission Impossible, Dirty Harry, etc. And the last thing I have is it opened on January the 22nd, 1982. It went in at number 6 in the box office top 10 and survived there in the top 20 for 2 weeks before dropping off the radar completely. But it grossed about $11.5 million. But I couldn't find out what the budget was, so I'm not sure of how much of a profit or loss it made.
It was $2 million, apparently.
It did okay.
Well, it did. I mean, it kind of outgrossed quite a few of the slash movies. Like I think it grossed 3 or 4 times as much as My Bloody Valentine, for instance.
What about Crazy Fat Ethel 2? Did it outgross that?
Well, a couple of million times that, I think.
Well, no, you got to think about this in terms of the budget for each versus the amount of money made.
Budget to profit ratio, yeah. Yeah, I still say it was pretty low.
Well,
I'd be surprised if Crazy Fat Ethel broke even.
I'm sure it broke even.
They invested.
I'm sure Crazy Fat Ethel broke something.
The couch.
And our
My Will to
Oh, my
Live.
God.
My Will to Live.
I heard that.
What did you say, Justin?
The couch.
Oh, I said she broke my will to live, but there you go.
Our hearts, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Eric. Is anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, well, I don't. Maybe we can end the show with your rendition of "Love's Hiding Place."
I can't remember the tune.
Well, as long as you don't show us "Love's Hiding Place," Eric.
That's up Nathan's alley. I don't know.
Well, possibly. So, okay, well, I've got a few bits and pieces here. Was that apparently I haven't listened to the commentary, although I'd like to track down the DVD at some point. Is that apparently the producers, Owen Ablin and the other one, whose name escapes me, were critical of Morgan Fairchild's unconvincing portrayal of a woman eating a box of chocolates, which the person reviewing
that role really convincingly.
Well, they said the person reviewing the DVD said it was a bit. They said seemingly missing the irony relating to their own cack-handed efforts with the movie. I found some fantastic reviews of the movie. Just a couple of excerpts from the reviews at the time. The New York Times said the Seduction, which opened yesterday at theatres all over the city, is an often comically inept, unsuccessfully vicious non-thriller. A beautiful young woman, her live-in lover, and crazy peeping Tom. It says Miss Fairchild spends most of the movie in water, swimming in a pool, in a whirlpool bath, in the health club steam room, or under a shower. This is just as well because she has a real talent for gracefully soaping her long, fine legs and lounging chin deep and bubble bath in such a way that bubbles do not get up her nose. And it says Andrew Stevens plays the peeping Tom, a psychotic who spends even more time blow drying his hair than he does terrifying his neighbour. And it says, for the record, I was not the man who was snoring so loudly at the first show, the Laos State one yesterday, that an usher had to be summoned to awaken the fellow. That is instant criticism of the cruelest sort. The Philadelphia Inquirer said Morgan Fairchild has taken a brief detour from the dumbness of Flamingo Road to make the equivalent of a 5-car accident in The Seduction. It's Dan Rubens in Cedar Rapids said this film, despite an above-average acting job by the entire cast, turns unintentionally funny midway through and continues to the climax, leaving the audience in laughter instead of suspense. And basically said that everyone laughed all the way through. Now, a couple of other things I thought was quite interesting was one of the papers pointed out at the time that the film seemed designed it was filled with TV stars, which seemed to be like, the same criticism that films like I Know We Did Last Summer and Scream to some degree had, where you had that kind of Warner Brothers, teen cast. And said it was used to kind of actually get people away from the TV sets and come and watch movies, although I'm not entirely sure how that was. Of course, the selling point was the idea of getting Morgan Fairchild seeing some flesh, basically, the titillation. And she said that she was deathly afraid of getting naked, but she said that she was talked into it because it made sense that she's being watched by Peeping Tom. So, of course, any woman at home would spend half an hour washing her shapely calves in a bubble bath and slipping in and out of chiffon negligee at every opportunity. She did criticise. She said that she was thought it was very sexist that Andrew Stevens got to wear a towel in his scene where he's wrapped only in a towel. But apparently Andrew Stevens said at the time that he thought that if he had to show his butt, it would have been gratuitous, unlike what Morgan Fairchild did. So what other things? And Morgan Fairchild said that she hoped for her next movie she'd be able to keep her clothes on, which unfortunately I think she didn't. Well, she didn't do. This basically killed her career on the big screen. But apparently, talking of Morgan Fairchild, she was best known prior to this, obviously in Flamingo Road, as a schizophrenic murderer in the soap Search for Tomorrow. And apparently there was somebody, there was a group, I don't know if it's one of these kind of early 80s moral majority types, called literally the Moral Majority. And it was Reverend Donald Wildmon said that Morgan Fairchild was too sexy for TV. And she said that she took the part because she usually got to play or was typecast as the kind of the rich bitch. And when she was being interviewed for the movie, and whether or not this was a kind of a gimmick, she was always flanked by female security guards. And they had a gala premiere and dinner dance to launch this movie in Atlantic City. Which seems to be a strange place to launch a film. But it was done to promote a new hotel there, which paid all the costs, which again, keeping it classy. But apparently, during the screening of the premiere, all the stars left 3/4 of the way through. And the one thing I didn't know about Morgan Fairchild, apparently, when she was younger, she wanted to be a paleontologist, and she was proficient in kung fu, which is a shame we didn't get to see you using some kung fu in this movie.
Yes, it could have been like Patch McKenzie at the end of the graduation day.
Well,
Yes.
exactly.
By the way,
sorry,
I've all been told I'm too sexy for TV. It's not fair.
I know it's not fair.
False.
I've been told I'm too sexy for my hat.
Oh, yeah.
So the last thing I'll just mention is the review from Box Office of Seduction, and they basically say the major problem is Seduction is one of those movies in which not a single element is believable. We don't believe Jamie lives in this house. We don't believe the police won't help. We don't believe the final shotgun knife fight, and we don't for a moment believe Jamie is a TV anchor woman. And apparently, part of the guff that was put out to promote the movie said that it was based on a real life case of a Southern California woman who was being stalked. And the director said that the police advised her to kill her stalker, which seems a bit unlikely, and that Morgan Fairchild was going to shadow an anchor woman to get ready for the role. But apparently that didn't happen for whatever reason. So that is all the background I have on the Seduction. So that is the Seduction. So what's your joke of the week, Eric? You've got a good one, haven't you?
I have one too, actually.
Okay. Well, here
you go first, though, Eric.
It's my joke of the week. I'm so great and fantastic.
What you call an actress that has big hair and has been ethically sourced? Morgan Fairtrade.
that was very good, actually. I like that one. That actually made me laugh. Well,
wow, you actually made Justin laugh for once.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Okay, well, Joseph, see if you can top that.
It's my joke of the week. I'm so great and fantastic.
Yeah, so apparently after the big Hollywood premiere, David Schmuller walked up to the lead actress and asked her what she thought of the film. He said, "Be fair, child."
It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yes, well, thank you for those two wonderful jokes. Nathan, do you have an after the credits for us, do you think?
Absolutely.
Don't press stop. After credit show.
I love that jingle.
It's a good jingle.
It's a good jingle.
Okay, so at the end, spoiler alert, Derek is hit with a shotgun blast to the stomach, and I think we're led to believe that he dies. So where I'm thinking it goes after that is that she has to start investigating the sweetheart killings, and it turns out the person doing the killings is her co-worker. There you go. The guy co-worker.
What?
He's doing the sweetheart killings.
Kevin Brophy.
Yep.
Did we? I don't think we mentioned he's supposed to be. It's bizarrely he's supposed to. Well, it has one throwaway line about saying how dishy Andrew Stevens is. So he's kind of painted as her gay best friend kind of thing. But it's just one little mention, isn't it?
Yeah, this is true. Do you guys have an after the credits, Justin?
Well, I'm trying to think. Actually, I think at the end of the movie, Morgan goes to bed, and then her hair detaches, and her big blonde poof of a cloud of hair goes out with a knife and starts killing models.
Wow, it's like that. What's the Indonesian movie again where their head detaches? Mystics in Bali. That's what it's like.
Yeah. Wow, I would watch that.
Who would?
Joseph.
Mine's sort of like yours. After the credits, we find out that Morgan Fairchild is actually the sweetheart killer or whatever it is.
And that would have been a good twist in this one.
Yeah.
What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I like the idea that maybe Andrew Stevens was just a figment of her imagination in kind of a Fight Club kind of way.
Oh.
She is the killer. Although I imagine that at the end she probably just got back into her sauna and just or into her bubble bath and just soaped herself up for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That could be the sequel,
oh,
couldn't
my
it?
goodness. Nothing like a nice bubble bath after dealing with this home invasion.
So, well,
there you have it.
There you go. That could be the Seduction too. If anyone's out there and wants to make a surefire hit. So, what have we got? Joseph, do we have kind of what people have written on Facebook about this movie?
Yeah, not a lot this time, but there's some here. This is from Facebook. David Ladd says, "This is one I watched again a few years ago, and I enjoyed it. It's more of a stalker film than a slasher film. This would actually make a good double feature with The Fan." Shane Lambert says, "Looks provocative." Jorgen London, God, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That poster reminds me of this, which is allegedly an Asian poster for the New York Ripper. He posted a picture of the New York Ripper, and it is the exact same poster. Shannon Blake Skelton says, "I always thought the poster was seriously effective." Jim Guntharp Jr. says, "It has a pre-self-aware Morgan Fairchild and Colleen Camp and Andrew Stevens. Clearly, it's a masterpiece." Over on Instagram, 80s Slasher Collector says, "Isn't this more thriller than slasher? There's only one kill in this," or there's two, technically. But I agree with him. On Twitter, Bill Hollister says, "I've never heard of this. I will have to watch it before the episode comes out. This looks like a perfect episode to have Amanda Reyes as a guest. And we were originally going to, but she's in Scotland right now, so she can't join us. Sorry." He goes on to say, "I can guarantee she loves this film. Hopefully we will all as well." And finally, on Twitter, the Bitter Bastard Nerdcast says, "They used to play this on HBO all the time in the 80s. My young teenage libido was all about Morgan Fairchild. So this one was in my wheelhouse. Not a bad film, but nothing real special either." And that's all.
Okay, well, thank you for everyone who wrote in, and we'll be telling you at the end of the show what we're going to be covering next time. But if you'd like to contact the show, then this is how to get in contact with us.
Don't press stop.
Oh, you're so professional.
Oh, no, I pressed the wrong thing. Sorry, I was taking a big glug of water. I took my headphones off. Oh, no. Oh, I'm not even drinking.
Just search for the Hysteria
awful.
Continues. We're everywhere. You don't even have to play the jingle.
I was too late. I pressed the button. You know in those films where someone takes a pin out of a grenade? Yeah. Then I've got it pressed down now, so it's going to have to play anyway.
The content of this podcast was provided by Justin, Joseph, Eric, and Nathan. If you enjoy our show and are willing to provide a donation, please consider becoming a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/The Hysteria Continues. Your monetary kindness keeps the show on the air, and in return, you'll have access to exclusive content not released elsewhere. Also, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to stay up to date on all of our future shows and Blu-ray commentary releases. For general feedback, our email address is thehysteriacontinues@gmail.com.
Yes, and thank you.
Yeah, I love the prom night thing, but I think that jingle is just much too long. I need to shorten it.
Okay, well.
So there you go.
Just before we move on from Morgan Fairchild, you were saying that she was in a 90s erotic thriller with Andrew Stevens again. I've just discovered it's Point of Seduction, Body Chemistry 3 from 1994. It sounds very 90s.
I love the body chemistry movies. They're hilarious.
Jim Wynorski is the director, and it stars Shari Shattuck, who is in Death Spa and The Uninvited.
Fantastic. And you were disappointed.
And she was in The Naked Cage.
Yeah. Am I right in thinking you were disappointed we weren't covering The Seduction of Inga, Eric?
Yeah. Because when I was Googling The Seduction, I discovered there is a film called The Seduction of Inga. But that's another story.
Well, yes, for another type of podcast, I imagine.
Madonna once had a stalker, and his name was Bob Hoskins. It wasn't my Bob Hoskins; it was a different guy.
How bizarre!
The same. Yes.
Wow. Well, I was going to say thank you for everyone who's written in, and thank you, of course, to our lovely Patreon supporters. And we do have for December. I'm just trying to think when this comes out because we've got. We have got an extra special Christmas Patreon show, haven't we, Nathan? Your pick.
Yes.
Do you want to mention what it is?
We are covering Seasons of Belief, a.k.a. The Grither, from Tales from the Dark Side, and we're going to cover And All Through the House, Tales from the Crypt episode.
Fantastic, and we are recording that straight after this show, aren't we, for release exclusively on Patreon. So if you're not already a supporter, then please sign up for as little as $1. What more could you ask for Christmas than us blathering on about 90s and 80s TV movies? Not TV movies, TV, not even 90s, both 80s, aren't they? 80s horror anthology. What would you call them?
Festive
anthology. TV show.
TV show. Okay, fair enough. So, we got some feedback, haven't we? Who would like to go first?
Okay, I have one. This is from Jeremy, and he says, "This message is for Joseph. Good day, sir." Good day to you, Joseph. I'm catching up on newer Hysteria, so just listen to the Urban Legend episode. You mentioned the WNUF Halloween special again, which I watched and loved some time ago based on your recommendation, but didn't touch on the hopefully forthcoming sequel, so I'm assuming this will be news to you. Chris LaMartina, who brought us the first WNUF, is trying to put together a follow-up movie. He's hoping to work with a budget that'll allow for something really special and is using crowdfunding to get the ball rolling. I'm including the link to the GoFundMe page if you'd like to take a look at the promo video posted there. I don't know if the idea of a WNUF sequel is your cup of tea, but I figured it was at least worth bringing to your attention. I'm not affiliated with Chris, just a fanboy trying to get the word out there since I'd love to see this movie made. Anyway, I hope this note finds you well. Looking forward to hearing your guys' coverage of The Seduction. Regards from Jeremy, and he gives me the GoFundMe page there. And Joseph, I think you're going to have to remind me of what WNUF is, because I have forgotten.
WNUF Halloween Special is an independent sort of a mockumentary from 2011, 2012, something like that. It's got our good friend Remy playing a priest in it.
Yes.
The movie itself, I really, really like this movie. It's just a lot of it's a lot of fun. It's almost lighthearted fun, but it is the best representation of that late 80s kind of public access TV show period that I've ever seen. I mean, it's really well done on such a small budget. It really does feel like you're watching some 80s program taped off of like late night news channel or something like that. It's just a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to the sequel. Unfortunately, I probably won't be able to donate to the GoFundMe because I'm so poor. I've been kicking a can down the road, and when people ask me what I'm doing, I say moving.
Well, the GoFundMe page.
Good luck on your movie. I hope you do get it made.
Okay, it's gofundme.com/WNUF-Halloween-sequel. So that's your web address.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Eric. Can I just give a quick shout out to there's a new Halloween book called The Changing Shape of an Iconic Series by Ernie Magnotta, which I bought off Amazon recently, and it turned up quite not that long ago. And it's a massive tome. It's about 250 pages, all about the Halloween series. And it's definitely worth a look. If you're a fan of the series, then I would definitely give it a go. I haven't had a chance to dive into it, but it looks great. And it's actually, I've been talking to Ernie about, because he self-published it through Amazon, and they do this thing where you basically it's print to order books. So I'm in the early stages of looking at a follow-up to my book, and possibly going down the self-publishing route through Amazon. So
you keep more money if you do it that way as well.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, it's not a massive. I mean, Amazon still take a huge cut, but it's. I'm thinking the idea I've got at the moment is, and actually, if you thought there's quite a lot of background to the Seduction, is kind of what I thought I might do. One of the criticisms of my book was that it wasn't as in-depth as enough, and that was, it was something I think I mentioned when I did write it. It had about 10,000 words cut out of it to get more images in. So it's not, obviously I can't do the same book again, but what I did think about is doing maybe one, possibly two books, but actually doing in-depth reviews and analysis and background and box office and everything of all the slasher movies from 1978 to 84. So
oh god, that would be such a good idea.
Yeah, so really digging into them. So that's what I've been doing with the Seduction. I started digging into sort of seeing if I can find more and more. And there's loads of great resources out there for finding out sort of background information about films. So that's something I'm toying with the idea at the moment, and it'll probably take me a year. But I thought because the way the books work is obviously they're more expensive the more pages you have. So that's why I might split it into two books. But I'm playing with that idea at the moment. So hopefully some more news later.
I've bought Ernie's book on Halloween as well, but I haven't had a chance to delve into it either at the moment. But it's impressive.
It's impressive. It's great. I mean, given the fact that it never goes out of print, and so it's as in doing that way. It has its own challenges, but I just thought actually, given if I really want to write a book on slasher movies that I know slasher movie fans would like, rather than trying to appeal to a more casual audience, sort of more commercial considerations, then it might be the way to go. So, anyway, on that bombshell, who would like to go next? Deafening silence. Is it me? Just me?
I don't really have anything.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, and I thought we all might have one, but not to worry. Well, here's my one. I've got Hello, Gentlemen. I thought I'd write in again and relate my latest horror movie viewings with you all, as I think they might be of interest. The 26th of October, I went to the drive-in near my area to watch a triple bill of Halloween 1978, H2O, and Halloween 2018. It was a fun time, and I really appreciate the opportunity to see these movies on the big screen. I was too young to see them on the first run. Something interesting to note was that the original Halloween went down surprisingly well with the crowd, as I could definitely hear people jumping and screaming at all the right moments. The new film was also met with a good reaction, but the oddball out was H2O. Pretty much the entirety of the film was met with laughter and groans of disapproval, particularly any time Josh Hartnett showed up, or as Jamie Lee's cringeworthy scream when she wakes up from her nightmare. I thought maybe the big finale would garner some positive reaction, but it was met with silence, and as the credits rolled, some were booing. Personally, I don't care much for H2O, but it was really surprised to see just how much the audience wasn't at all receptive of it, or to it. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because I can remember very clearly seeing H2O at the cinema and it getting a good reception. And in fact, sorry.
So I was just saying, me too. I mean, I went to see it when it opened, and I think the audience reaction was terrific.
I remember everyone sort of cheering when the Halloween music started playing. So it's curious, isn't the vintage of it? It's not seen as well. I mean, it's not as good a film as Halloween by any stretch, the original Halloween. But I think it was fairly effective for what it was, at the time. He goes on to say, finally, I recently purchased a revised and updated edition of Teenage Wasteland, or Teenage Slasher Movie Book, and I must compliment Justin for making a great book even better, as I thoroughly enjoyed it. Anyways, I've gone on long enough. Thank you guys for an amazing show, and long live the Hysteria Continues. Your resident villain, the Hobgoblin. So, thank you, Hobgoblin, for the kind words. And Erik, you enjoy a little goblin, don't you?
Oh, I think you cracked this joke the last time the Hobgoblin rang in.
I'm sure I will do it next time he writes in, or she writes in, perhaps. Who knows?
So keep writing in, Hobgoblin, so Justin can
recycle
have his own little
I really don't
joke.
think any of you are in any place to criticise my jokes after Fairchild.
What an asshole.
So, do we have anything else to say on this episode? I know we've got quite a lot to pack in tonight, and that's Erik's usual Saturday night.
It's a Sunday night.
It's a Sunday night. Well, I know.
I guess, what are we recording next time?
Yes. Whose choice is it?
Erik's pick.
It's
Erik.
my pick.
Okay.
Yes.
Erik, what are we recording next time?
Yeah, it's a fest. Sorry, what did you say, Justin?
I said, what are we recording next time, Erik? Not everything's a double entendre with me or you.
I thought you said something rude. Sorry. Yes, we're recording next time. It'll be our festive annual Christmas extravaganza, and we were thinking of what Christmas films we haven't covered yet, and it's going to be Christmas Evil from 1980, aka You Better Watch Out, if I'm not mistaken. Or is that what it's called? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the alternate titles.
Yeah.
And is that we might be joined by a special guest?
Yes, we are hoping if the planets align, we might have Amanda Reyes with us, hopefully, for that one. Amanda has, of course, interviewed Lewis Jackson, the director of Christmas Evil, for the book Yuletide Terrors, which was out last year, and it's terrific.
Excellent. Okay, so we shall look forward to that, and we will be here with bells on. Whichever, but Christmas balls, yes,
and tinsel.
And will there be a quiz?
I might throw a small one together.
Well, how about I do a quiz, because I haven't done a quiz for ages.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be a good idea.
I'll do a Christmas quiz for you. So, right, okay. Well,
Banshees.
No, this will be Christmas horror related, I think. I'll try and keep it. Well, I'll see what I come up with. So it'll be Christmas horror related and Susan the Banshees related. No, it won't. It might be a nod. I might throw a few questions in for you, Erik. You never know.
Who's the most awesome singer ever? And the answer is Toya. That's easy.
So, okay. Well, thank you for listening to Hysteria Continues, and I can guess we're going to play out with possibly. I think it's fair to say not Dionne Warwick's finest hour. With the very boring theme tunes, Seduction, but we'll probably have some kind of rude words or something over the top of it. But that was the Seduction, and we are the what?
Bottom. I'm giving you a selection of rude words.
Well, thank you. Can you wait until I've stopped recording, and then I can put them in over the end, as you know. So, thank you for listening to The Hysteria Continues, and we'll catch you next time. So say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye, Derek.
This is very odd for me that my pick's the one more look forward to by Joseph.
You got a black veil?
No, I'm not wearing a black veil.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, that's good to know. Sorry to make you go through that again.
Reyes wouldn't do that. Right. She wouldn't be so shoddy.
I'm an anchor woman in peril. Erik, cut me a break.
She's saying I'm not a trollop.
It says this is the scariest intro music we've ever had.